Call the meeting to order. Would you all please rise? Join with me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody here this morning and move on to the roll call. Mr. Clerk.
Okay. Lawton.
Here.
Ludington.
Here.
Patrick.
Here.
Bruner.
Here.
Ellis.
Here.
Farnham.
Here.
Voigt.
Present. We do have a quorum. In fact, everybody's here. Next, we move on to the minutes from January 13th regular meeting and January 15th special meeting. You've all had those. Is there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to approve the minutes as presented by the clerk. Andy moves. Phil seconds. Ready to vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The minutes are approved as presented. Claims against the county. You also likewise have had those for a few days. Do you have any additional questions in addition to what was asked at the study session? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to accept our claims against the county. Dan moves. Andy seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. County board member claims. You've had those. Are there any additions or corrections or questions? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to approve the county board claims. Andy moves. Phil seconds. Any additional conversation? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Those are approved. Now we come to the portion of the meeting for public comment. We ask that you restrict your comments to 5 minutes. We have a podium and that you identify yourself. Are there any public comments, please? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to highway. We have one resolution to authorize the engineer to sign an ICC stipulated agreement number 2125 for crossing surface in Brockton. We discussed that on Monday morning. Are there any additional questions or any concerns? Hearing none, I need somebody to move the authorization of that resolution. Andy moves. Russ seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, would you call the roll, sir?
Lawton.
Here.
Ludington.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
And Farnham.
First time you were first and you missed
It is approved. Next, we have an appointment to make to the 708 board. Jonathan called Kay Fiddler to see if she'd be interested in serving on the board. Kay has some background where that's concerned, and they were comfortable as a board having us appoint Kay to that board. So are there any questions? You know Kay, if you're not familiar, her husband recently passed away here a couple of months ago, and he was on our 911 board. And so I think Kay would be a fine addition to that board. I've known her for years and years and years. So is there a motion to approve Kay? Dan moves. Lisa seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It is carried. Thank you, gentlemen and lady. Let's see, we also have a vacancy created by the loss of Dwayne Fiddler on the 911 board. And Mike Marvin, I've talked to Mike and he'd very much like to serve. That's good with the board. I talked to their chairman, Troy Eads, and they're happy to have Mike joining them if you will approve them. So I need a motion. By the way, Mike is the fire chief up in Chrisman and has a lot of background over the years in emergency services, so. Motion, Phil? Russ, seconds? Any further discussions or questions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. They are both approved and I appreciate it. Committee reports, I know you pretty much talked about everything, Aaron, at the last study session, so does anybody have any questions of Aaron that weren't thought of at the time? Okay, Adam, do you have anything that, you were also at the meeting and presented a report, are there any
I don't
things
have anything
you?
additional unless you guys have any more for me.
Okay, we do have Wyatt here from the Farm Bureau, nice to see you, do you have anything you wish to add?
Nope, nothing.
Okay, I didn't know whether you were here for any particular reason other than to see where we were on the wind farm deal.
Nope, just figured you missed me.
Yeah.
Are you going to discuss about the wind farm meeting?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we can, I mean, I was going to,
Okay.
we can do it now if you want,
No.
we can do it.
Whatever.
Okay, but yes,
Yeah.
let's see, August?
Yes, believe it or not, we start early voting on Thursday, February the 25th
Jeez.
for the April 6th consolidated election.
Okay,
So, and we're making just the final preparations for the ballot. There are going to be numerous different ballot styles because this is the election where we're electing townships and school board members and villages. So, different ballot styles to accommodate all those. Other than that,
any questions of Augie? Okay, I have Don's report and you've had it presented to you. By the way, Don still hasn't got a haircut since.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, I mean, I know that's, everybody's wondering, but what?
I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah.
I
well,
thought it was a lady sitting back there.
Ooh, ooh,
Tell him I said that.
we may want to edit that. Just
Don't put
kidding.
that in the paper when they feel bad.
You will notice though that our cash position has certainly improved over the last 4 or 5 years. You will note at the bottom, the notes show that certain things we've received and certain things we haven't received. And the accruals have not been done, but last year's budget looks like it wound up in pretty good shape. So I did talk to the lead accountant or lead auditor yesterday, Matt, and went over a couple things with him. We are now required to do an audit on the commissary and sheriff's funds that is now required. Since this will be the first year, I got a price of $3,500 to do that audit. And thought that, let me back up. The audit can be done by, obviously, a certified CPA auditor, or it can be done by the treasurer, okay? The first year, my thoughts to you, and to have you think about it, is that we have the auditors do it, to go in and take a look at everything, not that we expect anything, but just to make sure that we get a template laid out of what we're doing, and then offer it, if the treasurer would like to do it, present it to him, and then go from there. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Sounds good to me.
Because none has been done. So it's just something that's now required by DOC and has to be turned in annually in the spring. So we'll make sure we're doing that. Okay? Based upon what you've just said. Andy, did you have a thought?
Yeah, but I'm like, $3,500.
Well, that was my question. What do they charge us for Duke countywide?
About 40.
40,000.
And say that a number of years ago, and I think it was in '98, they added the audit that we have to do because of all the funds that Angie's office brings in, okay? And that's substantially more than that, but that's included in the 40, okay?
Doing that down there is a lot more than
Doing the
Angie stuff.
Angie stuff
It was
is,
just minimal, so they didn't feel like there was a need to increase it, but
Like part of the commissary.
okay, we've been doing Angie's for a number of years, and that's included in what we bid to start with, so that's included in what's under 40, at 40 or less. We're adding an audit, and that's $3,500, so it's basically 10% to the audit. But it's broken up into 3 sections.
so what are they auditing again? The commissary and what else?
Commissary, any funds that the sheriff collects or does, okay? It includes all those funds. To make sure that the beginning, end, in the middle, they'll do some tests. They'll do testing to make sure that receipts and everything else are correct. Okay? Does that? Okay, let's see. We need to move on to our reports. So, Dan, do you have anything that you wish to talk about as far as your committee assignments?
Not really. I'm the executive with the estate, the lady passed away. Gonna give a sizable donation to animal shelters. It'll be coming. Yep. Take care of the cats and the dogs.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Andy?
Not much more to add other than, I did get a chance to read the report from the insurance company. There's a few things, suggestions that we need to do. Actually, I brought a copy and gave to everybody. I didn't know how many people had it. But nothing really, I didn't think too major, just things we need to do. Update, make sure, a critical thing that he seemed to think was to make sure and keep our webpage up to date, county webpage. And I'm not so sure, there was some confusion about which page maybe they got on. Is there still an old one out there, and can we get rid of that?
Well, I've had people tell us that they couldn't find our website, and when they gave me the address, it was an old one from, goodness, 9 years ago, 8, 9.
And what server's that on? Do you,
I-
what's that address? Don't know?
It's like Edgar, Edgar-il.com.
Oh, that's old.
I know that's old,
But if it's still out there, we ought to.
but I
Contact.
can't promise you that that's what the issue is.
Okay.
But I know that I know over the years, I've had people say, well, I can't get hold of you, I'm using this website, and I tell them, well, that's no longer any good.
I'll ask Ross
Yeah.
if we can, I'm not sure we can delete stuff like
Remove
that.
that off of there.
And the other thing is, well, while we're talking about it, I've had a lot of comments on how our website is not real user-friendly. Now, I don't know anything about how to make a website or design one, but maybe they got lost in their searching on our website.
I
thought it was pretty straightforward.
I thought it was pretty straightforward too, but.
Well, different people have different skills.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway, that was a liability issue that he thought was, that we should keep up on.
Why is that a liability
Well,
issue?
in case somebody wants to get on and look up information and they find that or they think that it's not available. I mean,
I would have thought the watchdogs would have told us a long time ago.
yeah.
Current board members, contact information, budgets, levies, meetings, those types of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
There was a recommendation from them, so.
That they couldn't find it, or?
I think they maybe got on the wrong, it sounded to me, he talked like, I think they got on the wrong website, and that's why I wanna make sure that that thing,
Did you try to get him on the, show them or
We
direct
did.
them to
told
Augie
them
so
the
he could?
correct
told them
web,
what it
we
was.
told them the correct one to get on.
Well, we ought to follow up and make sure they got on it,
Yeah, yeah,
okay?
but some other miscellaneous.
And if they have any specific, because I know you can even get on the health department from there and vice versa. So, I mean, there's segues.
Okay.
So, and I, not to interrupt you, Andy, but I know that there are recommendations and then we're required to provide a follow-up, action taken,
30 days after.
yeah, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you gonna follow up with that particular issue with them?
Well, quite honestly, I would like to see an insurance committee meeting
Okay,
so that we could,
that's
I'll
fine.
do what I can, and pull in maybe, you know, what, I don't know what all departments are affected by the recommendations, but I certainly will try to coordinate answer to those.
Have you seen that report?
Have I seen it?
Yeah.
Yes, I've got it. Do you have it?
So, I just glanced at it and I saw that there was an issue with the website.
Okay.
There was like a page they couldn't get or something. So Ross obviously needs to be involved in it.
Well, we need to find out what page is they couldn't get to. And if they were on the wrong, before we ever meet, to find out if it's just an error and they just, you know, whatever. And then we talked about the downstairs, the boiler and doing that stuff.
Yeah. Having I didn't reiterate, because I think everybody pretty much is here that was here on Monday, so, but, having the drain issue, one half of the back drain on the steam system is not going back into the recovery tank, so, because it's actually leaking in the ground, so we're putting a new recovery tank, pumping it over to the, so that it all is in one system again, and we reuse the water instead of dumping it, so.
That system has a small leak in it right now, correct?
It does.
Under the concrete. Yeah.
Andy, do you know what's the estimated time to finish that project? Are they gonna wait till the boiler's shut off for the year?
You know, I thought about that, and it doesn't matter, they can do it while it's on.
Okay,
I mean, it's just simply hooking that into a tank, and that's not part of the pressurized system or anything, so we can do it anytime they want. I sent him an email yesterday. Rocky is the guy who handles that at Sycamore Engineering. I said, go ahead, we got the go ahead and do that. And I told him, I said, let me know when you're going to. There's just a lot of different offices that would like to know what's going on when it happens. I don't think it'll affect anybody, but there'll be guys going in and out doing stuff down there.
Well, you have election storage down there, right?
I do, yes.
So it is critical for
It will be
especially
in that one
Augie.
room, across the hall. You know where the boiler room is?
Yeah, it's across the hall. Right.
Yours is straight across the hall, and they will be putting a tank and putting some stuff in there,
Right,
and
right,
plumbing, so
right, right.
if you've
Well-
gotta get in and get stuff out, you'll probably do it by,
Well, it depends upon how far, I mean, if they're gonna be towards the north end, comparable to where the entryway is to the door, crossing, you get what I'm saying?
yeah,
If that's, because there's a lot of pipes coming,
there are.
and if they're gonna work right in that area, we should be okay.
Okay,
We should be okay. The only thing that I would ask is if maybe when we get closer into March, that they stay away, because I'll be getting all my precinct kits and bags worked on and completed, and probably, or I really wouldn't like people in and out of there when I get that stuff together.
Okay.
So
I'll get with you, you give me dates
Yep.
that you would
Yep.
prefer that they didn't, and I'll convey that to them.
And if it's time critical, let's just do it now.
I'm hoping they'll do it fairly soon. I mean, that's indoor work. I'm sure they got a lot of outdoor work, and once the weather breaks, but I would think that'd be something they want to do in winter
I
time.
have some old election materials that I'm waiting to dispose of those. I gotta get permission from the state. So that part's not the issue, it's my new voting booths that are down in there, and I just didn't know for sure how much room they're gonna need along the wall.
Good.
So we'll get
Together, and give me dates, and I'll go down. I've been in that room and looked at it, but I forget exactly what they were gonna do. But we'll go down and take a look at it too.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, that it?
That's it.
Bill?
Nope.
Russ? Carl? Lisa, do you wanna help me talk about the meeting we had yesterday a little bit?
Yeah, first though, I did participate in the Chamber's regular meeting by Zoom, and Andy and I participated in the North Edgar County Ambulance Service Committee. And were you gonna get with Derek
I'll
to
get with Derek.
encourage him to move quickly?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only other things I have.
Yeah, I will. I'll get with him today.
Okay. Then we had a meeting of the wind farm.
Right, so we had first we had our committee meeting that was Jeff, me, and John Chittick to take a look at our ordinance and any changes that we thought we needed to look at. I think really, pretty much all we did was tighten it up by adding additional language. A couple of items that we hadn't realized or we found other language that was more explicit. And then we met with Jonathan from Orsted
Baker.
yesterday.
Yeah.
And we had some questions for him, partly definitions and to give us a better understanding of some of the terminology and some of the issues. I thought he did a really nice job of giving us more explanation. I think the biggest thing for us was, especially for me, is they had given us a map of taking a look at some different setbacks and what they thought that the impact could be on their viability. And we were in agreement that the map was not accurate, that when you look at that at the west central part of our county, there aren't even as many grain bins and abandoned buildings as what they were identifying as primary structures. So that was, I felt pretty strongly about that he really couldn't determine whether his product or his project was viable or not until he had accurate data.
We all agreed on that.
Yeah.
And they were gonna do a actual field study. That's what I
That's
heard.
right, yeah.
That would go out and verify some of those issues and remove some of the minutia involving like Redmond, Brockton, Kansas, Hume, and Metcalf. And they had included areas right around there that, they've got 1.5 miles anyway where the city can tell them to back off. So we need to have those things removed.
And
So,
then you were going to ask Dina for
right,
a more accurate map too.
yeah, we want to, if Dina has the time to make because she's got a pretty good aerial there, and she may have more up-to-date aerial than what they may have used. But I looked at a couple areas like you, and I mean, where, for example, just to be specific, Steve Rogers has bins in a building. All those were identified as primary structures. And there isn't, not a house within probably 3/4 mile of there. So we need to make sure that we have an accurate representation of that map so that we can make some determinations about setbacks. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insert
No.
myself. We talked about flicker.
Yeah, we wanted more
Noise.
understanding and definition of flicker.
We found out that even without restrictions, they would set back no matter what, even with exceptions or somebody signing away 1,500 feet. I mean, not that that's probably not near enough, but at least it's something. And we just looked at them, many things, and so, yes.
We talked about setback, do those structures have to be inhabited? Like
Yeah, we did talk about that very issue. Habitable structures,
Okay, so
okay?
a grain bin would not be considered.
Right.
You had to
A
worry
primary
about.
structure of house.
Although there are some people, if you watched HGTV, who've moved into grain bins, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Well, they've got to, if we're taxing it as a home, then it's a home,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Wyatt, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just, so the company you were talking with, that was Orsted still, that's what the name is?
Garland
Harlan?
Garland
Garland.
Garland.
Project,
Okay.
but it's Orsted, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. I would give you heads up, there is another company looking around called Apex.
They were gonna be there, or at least
Okay.
ask if they could be. They had a COVID outbreak in their head office,
Okay.
so they could not be there. They're gonna call us and make themselves available to us here in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
But I appreciate the heads up.
yeah, I know they were on a moratorium of going to visit, but I know this Apex is hitting Kansas on the Coles County side as well, pretty hard right now.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they were up around, you mean Orsted?
No,
Or
Apex.
they're up. They've told us that they're up in Vermillion County and in our northeast section. That's where they're interested.
I had a guy call the other day and said he's close to the substation, Kansas, and said it was Apex that was looking to put one in close to the substation for obvious reasons.
Well, then they may be competing. I wonder if they know that.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, we are familiar with Apex.
Okay.
They have called, we have talked to them several times. They have a manager, a project manager assigned, and I can't, Little. I think the guy's last name is Little.
And then I would offer, if you guys need any other questions, comments, please let us know. I'd love to see the language that you guys updated.
We're working on it. We have not, quite frankly, updated much
Okay.
and have solidified our position pretty much at the behest of our attorney on decommissioning,
Okay.
which I know we're at odds at.
Right,
Well,
and that's understandable.
But we know what, at least we're talking, at least we know what we're, and we talked with them, and they got the state law out that says that we have to be given, the particulars of that, but we're not necessarily responsible for that, the way
Right.
the state law reads.
And Home Office understands that
So,
while we're at odds, like you said.
yeah, and I mean, and there may be further things that we can explore.
Right. And then as far as the setbacks, you guys are still staunch on the 3250 or whatever it was?
Well, that's what's on the books right now. I can't tell you where it's gonna wind up.
I would strongly encourage keeping somewhere near that number.
Really? Okay.
Just, I mean, at the very minimum, we encourage 1660, I think, but
Well, we
I
were
think
at
so.
1650,
yeah.
and we're looking, I think, at two numbers right now, either 2 or something less than 32.
Okay.
I'm not speaking for everybody, it's what I hear,
Right.
okay?
And that's fine.
And everybody is still collecting information on it, and we're trying to make sure everybody has as much information as you can.
Yep. And whatever we can do to help.
Carl, did you want to add anything to that?
Did you have a meeting at the Farm Bureau in the past?
We did roughly a year ago, I think it was.
Yeah, I was there.
We had a landowners meeting, we sent out postcards to everyone. We
Okay.
had pretty good attendance,
Mhm.
Facebook was full for it.
What was the general feeling? I mean, did you have comments as far as setbacks or decommissioning or?
There was a little bit of a chunk that wanted to just know more about it, because they had been approached, and, they thought, well, that's a pretty sweet deal when you look at the money, and they wanted to know more about it. And there was a more of a majority that were against it, but wanted to hear them out. Maybe they had some misinformation, and, you know, so it was kind of split in different ways. We had some that were very vocal opposition, handing out, opposition papers, so we kind of had to put a kibosh on that there.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Most of the folks that talked to me were just hadn't made up their mind.
Yeah, that's majority was that.
I think the big thing that came out of there is you're dealing with a big company. Don't think you can handle it by yourself.
Right.
Okay, get it, and these are attorneys from your agency that came, or the,
Home office.
yeah, the home office, and they says, you know, if there's several of you together and you get along, get an attorney together. I mean, there were several different, but just don't do it alone. And I've had several attorneys call me and ask me where we're headed and all that, that it seems like that's what a lot of people have done.
Yeah, and if you hear of someone that's not really sure and they want an attorney, we have a list of ones that home office would recommend that deal with this fairly often, so.
Yep.
Did you have many comments about the setback?
No,
I mean, or did you
Not
really
that
know
many.
that much about it?
Not at that point, that was just more beginning information.
yeah, we didn't have any, I
I'm
didn't.
just curious whether that's a big deal for some people, the setback.
It will be, and I think the more you hear coming out of Douglas County up in Newman, I think setback will be more of a bigger thing.
What's the setback up there, do you know?
I think it's the minimum 1,500-1,600, right around there.
What's the effect on the roads when it bring the blades in? Don't bring the blades in one piece?
Oh, yes. Well, I can tell you that when they were building the one in Newman, they had to come in on Arcola exit, and they had to come all the way up 49 there, and then go in. They couldn't get off there in Tuscola because of the blue. They take a lot of time, a lot of effort to move. State police has to come out, give them escorts. They had a guy sit, I live in Hume, they had a guy sit there pretty well all day and night, waiting for those blades to come in to escort them.
You don't want to give your hand to semi.
No,
Anyway, it was a good discussion, and I don't think we got all our questions asked, but we have more information coming, and I thought it was a good meeting. Lisa, do you?
I agree.
Have you found 3,200 feet setback to be detrimental to development?
the only county I know of that has that would be Livingston, and I haven't heard anything specific to it.
Well, they are having no more.
Yeah.
That
And I-
stops it.
Okay.
And I think that's why they did that.
Yes,
Just-
exactly. There's 3 counties that have done that, actually.
Is there three?
They have
DeKalb-
3,200, and
Yeah,
that has,
decount or something on that level, over 2,500. I think there's 3 counties that have done that, and it's pretty well,
Livingston has quite a few already, and I
Yeah.
can understand why they.
yeah.
Does that have an effect on setback, oh, not setback, but shadow flicker, the farther back the tower is?
I think
You have to
Lisa
worry
can
about the
answer that
shadow
better
flicker.
than he can.
Pardon?
Lisa can probably answer that question better than, at least what we heard
I just wonder,
yesterday.
it seemed like farther back, you wouldn't have to worry about shadow
There
flicker.
is a diminishing effect.
Okay.
And that was one of the
Also height,
things, that was one of the things we asked him about as
Okay.
well. And the other thing I'd asked about was, what was their planned height?
Mhm.
And at some point, and he said they would have to live with what we set as our formula. And then the density will determine what they choose for density, and total output will determine also what their height is gonna be.
And blade height, or blade length also is determined to a lesser extent about how they can get in and out of the place. But for example, they're looking at roughly a 200 megawatt field. All right, and they're looking between, 3 and 4 kilowatts per unit, which would put it at 550 to 600, roughly. So somewhat smaller than what we had been advised in the past. So at any rate, just to give you a little bit of information there. Okay?
So that is one of his assignments, is to come back and give us information about the distance the shadow flicker is measurably an impact.
One of the things I found interesting, though, that he did offer that they do have a couple of mitigations, because you asked him, well, what can be done? And one of the things was they limit the hours of flicker, and they can reduce the flicker effect by planting trees, if that's acceptable, or even inside window coverings that they can use.
Right.
They also talked about when they site the deal, when they site the tower, they can move that around,
Right.
or they can simply stop. If it's a high production tower, they could stop it.
For a period of time.
Right, and that the computer would be designed to stop it or start it.
That makes sense, yeah.
I mean, but they had thought about it. Now, whether that's acceptable or not, we're still waiting for some of the other things to happen.
But also, you know, as you just said, they're proposing like a 200 and maybe the 500 to 600 tip height, but, you know, we gotta be thinking on down the road, some other company come in with these giant 700
Right.
plus things, so we gotta make sure that we're thinking there could be bigger stuff on down the road.
In technology and
Right.
legislation, you know, in the next 10 years, we have no idea. So we need to keep pace with this. Even once we come up with something, we need to continue to evaluate our policy to make sure that it protects the health and safety of both the people participating and the people not participating in this deal. But all in all, I think it was a good meeting, and we learned a lot. So, anything else, Lisa, that you needed to do? I do want to let you know that the courthouse, the state courthouse grant is now moving forward for the roof. There it looks like, and they won't say when they're going to release the funds so we can start dealing with that. But we've just signed some paperwork. We've come up to the top of the pile, and we're having to supply them with additional information for that $250,000. So, once we get that, we'll keep you posted.
It has to be a slate roof, correct?
No, well, we haven't said anything yet,
Yeah.
okay? That's up to the committee and working through that. Okay? By the way, just to refresh your memory, above the entrances, you might describe what we did there last year.
Well, I mean, we redid one, or that's basically what the scope of the grant is going to cover. I mean,
It's not
the
enough
entire
to
roof's
do.
gonna cost a lot more than that. So if they're gonna give us that, we figured out where to begin on the roof, basically.
And moving some of the mechanicals down so that they're not subject to leaking, and finish the entrances, and do the things necessary. That's enough to cover that.
No, those are just.
Those are
right now
actually
they're-
rubber.
Yeah, they're tar, most of them, and it's really almost impossible to do any roof work, because they put all the air conditioners up there. They need to be relocated so that you can fix those roofs.
And additionally, when they need work done, they're hard to work on out there. You almost have to bring a lift truck out to get them worked on.
Yeah.
So this is gonna solve some problems. Will it solve all of our problems? But hopefully they'll be able to get us additional money as we go on to start tackling other issues. It wasn't enough to do the whole thing, so we prioritized. We were actually having damage done by the one not being fixed, so we arrested some damage that was being done, in the circuit clerk's office and so forth, so. Okay? Anything else that we need to bring up? Can you think of anything I've missed? I know we need to move into an exec session, but before we do that, I think that's it. We need to have an exec session on dealing with session minutes. Is there anything else we need to include on the closed session that anybody would like to do? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session so that we can address closed session minutes being made public or not. Andy moves. Phil seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. There will be action taken on one item only after the meeting, and that's after the closed session, and that will be closed session minutes. Okay?
My whole wife's dementia.
Okay, we're back in.
Okay, we're back into open session. We have one item left on the agenda, and that is to, a motion. We need a motion to keep closed session minutes closed. Do we have a motion? Andy moves. Carl seconds. Any further discussion? And the motion is to keep all closed session minutes closed. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. It does pass. We are keeping the minutes closed. Of the closed minutes, meetings closed. Jeez. Motion to adjourn, please.
Who's on first?
Andy moves. Phil seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you all.